We are live.
Okay, thank you. This is a special call meeting for the Board of Aldermen for the City of Starkville. We are gathered at the second floor conference room of City Hall at 110 West Main Street. I'll call this meeting to order, and this meeting is for the purpose, as a special call meeting, this meeting is for the purpose of interviewing candidates for the position of Director of Community Development. And we will be doing this. This is kind of fun. We've never done this before. This will be interviews via the computer, the Skyping. And so we're going to be interviewing them with using our equipment here, and we're going to be asking questions. They'll be seeing us and responding. And while we've never done this before, I think it's been tested out for a couple of days by all of our IT specialists. So we're going to see if this works. Everybody be relaxed and comfortable about it and patient. So we'll see if we can't make this happen in good form and have everybody relaxed with our interview process here. So Matt, are you going to dial Mr. Kim up?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Our first candidate is Mr. Sungman or Simon Kim, and he is going to be he's going to be coming up on the screen here shortly. And there we get to see ourselves. I guess that's the phone ringing?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Kim.
Yes, speaking.
Can you see us?
Yes, a little bit blurry, but I can see
A
you.
little blurry? Okay. I'm Lynn Spruill. I'm the mayor of the city of Starkville, and you have four of our aldermen. You have alderman from Ward 2, Sandra Sistrunk is to my right over here. Alderman from Ward 3 is David Little, and down from him, the alderman from Ward 4 is Jason Walker, and then down from him, alderman from Ward 7 is Mr. Henry Vaughn. So we are all here. We are Facebook. I understand that you guys talked to our IT people, or that you talked to our IT people yesterday, and
Today in the morning.
and it seems to be working for you. So we just want to make sure that you can hear us as we go through this process. So, and we've
Yes.
never done this before, so if you'll be patient with us, we will see if we can make this work for everybody.
Yeah, I'll be
Okay,
here.
what we normally do is say if you would like to make an opening statement, I'm sorry, and Alderman Patrick Miller has just come in, he's Ward 5. He has just come in to join us. So if you would like to make an opening statement, we all have your resume and your the paperwork that you have sent us, the application and the resume. So do you have anything you'd like to open with in terms of letting us know a little bit about you from your perspective other than what we have on paper?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Mayor and Alderman. I'm going to start with my introduction. My name is Sungman Kim, and you can call me Simon if you like to, or formerly Dr. Kim, whichever you prefer. Sungman, Simon, Dr. Kim. I will look at you and answer to you. I am a professional, experienced professional planner, and with 30 years of experiences. I got certifications like AICP, Certified Planner, and GISP, Certified GIS Professional, and SPHR, Senior Professional in Human Resources. And also I am a professional landscape architect licensed to practice in Mississippi and Texas. My academic achievements include PhD in landscape architecture with a thesis on urban planning and design. And I've got 2 master's degrees, one in landscape architecture with a dissertation on environmental psychology. And another one is Master of Business Administration. And I got a bachelor's degree in landscape architecture with a final product in the downtown design. I spent the last 30 years developing leadership, and among those about 12 years were performed in foreign countries like South Korea and Great Britain, and 18 years were performed at mostly at the public sector in the United States. So far I managed planning and zoning, community development, and engineering, and public works, and parks and recreation, code enforcement, and inspections, and economic development, and environmental protection, shoreline management, what else? And many others, including grant applications and management too. So I found that the city's advertisement looking for leadership as a community development director, and so I researched about Starkville, and I found that the city values the professional planning and customer-centric services and sustainable development, and those are the values that I have. And since it was aligned with my values, that increased my application for the position. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We appreciate that. And I'm going to ask a few questions myself,
Okay.
and then I will turn it over to other board members if they have particular questions that they would like to ask.
Sure.
I see you're in Brownsville, Texas right now, right?
Right.
And that's I just Googled it, so I'll be clear, or transparent. I see that's 183,000 is the population of Brownsville.
Yes.
And so I have to ask, what would cause you to be interested in coming to a population of about 25 or so thousand?
Yeah, Starkville has a 25,000 population in about 26 square mile area. The issue is when I looked at it, the area is growing, and it'll become a metropolitan core, and that matters. I've been through the suburban community, city of Deltona, Florida, and Clay County, which is a metropolitan suburban communities too, and then city of South Padre Island, which is the tourist destination. It is only 2.5 square mile area, about 6,000 inhabitants, 30,000 seasonal population, and 5 million annual visitors. So it is very busy, but it's like downtown. So after going through those, I look for the community that will be developed in the future, rather than that those are already developed. So I applied it personally. It is close to the Birmingham, Alabama, and Jackson. My in-laws are living in Alabama, so it is not that close, but not that far. Mm-hmm. So I thought that would be the right location.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. So family is part of what would bring you here. Well, that's good to know. I appreciate that. I'm curious why you have, or how you, what caused you to get the Mississippi landscape architecture, let me make sure I get my language correct.
Landscape architect license.
The landscape architect in Mississippi, because with your previous time, it wasn't in Mississippi. Have you done work in Mississippi?
No, I haven't worked, but I acquired the license there because I got a PhD in landscape architecture, and I've been working in the field of landscape architecture, but other jurisdiction actually wouldn't allow me to even sit for the exam. And the Mississippi was the one of those which allowed. So I went there several times, and I took the exam, and I got the license there.
Okay, well, just so you know, we have on the board, we have a landscape architect, the professor, Alderman Walker. Jason Walker is out at the university, and he's a landscape architect. So
that's great.
It's one of those very valuable degrees, so I applaud you. I also see right now that for the city of South Padre Island, that you coordinated, you said 29 employees, so you have managed staff before?
Yes.
Okay, and is 29 about the size of your current staff, or is that from long ago?
No, I resigned from the position December 2018. I stayed there about 4 years and 7 months, but there was a lot of changes in the leadership. During the 4 years and 7 months, I served about 4 city managers. Okay. And now the new city manager is actually moving to another the community. So I was more looking at my career. Also, it was a job, and I boast that I did a lot of work there, but I couldn't find or seeing myself developing there. So I stopped working there, and I started my own business, landform and planning, and it's been a year as a private consultant.
Okay, okay, well, I appreciate that. As a former quasi-city manager, I understand the difficulty with leadership sometimes. It is challenging. That's all I have at this point in time. Does anybody have anything? Alderman Little, you had said you had a couple of things you wanted to add?
Yeah, Dr. Kim, why are you wanting to leave your business that you just started about a year ago? Is there any reasoning behind that?
Why?
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah. Why did I
Why are
leave?
you wanting to leave your current
Yeah,
position?
I already explained it due to the frequent changes in the leadership. More specifically speaking, that when those changes happen, probably annually, the new city manager will not do their job properly because they are afraid of what's coming next. So it actually created a harsh work environment and blame culture. They began to blaming everybody else. So during that time, I've seen actually 4 PIOs and 4 public works directors and 2 building officers and 4 IT directors. So basically, I've been seeing actually the people actually suddenly the kind of gone on one day, and that actually made me kind of unsettled there, and the unstable environment would not actually rewarded me a lot, even though I actually did a lot of work. Probably that was why I could stay there about 4 years and 7 months. And then I felt really, this is not a right place to work. So I just resigned there and I started my own business.
Um,
I think the question, Dr. Kim, was why are you wanting to leave your
current
business that you started? Is there some reason that you're wanting to move back into the public sector?
Could you repeat that, please?
You've got a business that you started after you
Yeah.
left Brownsville, but are you not enjoying the private sector? Are you wanting back in the public sector?
Oh, no, that's a question. That's a fair question. What happened was I love working and researching about and provide services out there. But the problem is when I manage my own business, it's got to be mostly involved in marketing and go out there and applying for the bid. So preparation takes more time than my study. And in addition to that, I've got to pay my family's insurance. That affordable insurance is not affordable anymore. So I thought, well, I kind of beginning to miss about the government sector work. So that's why I was beginning to look for it.
Okay, that's fair.
okay. Dr. Kim, excuse me. Starkville for the past few years has been experiencing unprecedented growth, economic development.
Right.
With that, we've made some changes to our ordinances, and sometimes developers may not agree with some of these changes. And so as far as implementing within community development and enforcing our ordinances and also maintaining a amicable relationship with developers, in your past experiences, what kind of dealings have you had with that handling conflict? Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I've done a lot of work.
Conflict resolution, I
Yeah,
guess
of course,
you could say.
developers are usually upset and going against with government actions or government codes because that conflicts with their own interest. That is for sure. They want to do the business easier. They don't want to see more financial burden through the design guidelines. So they don't want to have it. They just want to build. They just want to do the business. They want to sell. But it is not for the public interest at the public sector, because public sector wants to build appropriate and nice development so that that development can actually recruit better businesses inside rather than just the crappy businesses. So we understand, and I've done that. I managed those many times. I created the communication program which invites developers or any stakeholders in my office and initiated discussions what they have concerns of, and what is the issues they are raising. Firstly, we need to make it clear, and if they are going against other parties like developers going against the new code, then staff and developers will meet together and discuss about the new code sections thoroughly, why it is needed, and what could be the burdens, but what would be the trade-offs for them. They gonna just provide crappy business at first. They will be easier, but as time goes by, they need to redevelop it, and that will be more costly. So, and if the other business will not come there, and it will become slumped, then their business will not flourish. So I have been recommending them to collaborate with the city government so that they can. It may be a little bit of burden at first for them to provide the aesthetically pleasing development, but in the end, it'll be the rewarding for them too, because that area will be better, and we will see better businesses, and the better businesses will create attractive powers, and more people will come, and they will be better off with it. So I've been talking with the developers many times, and honestly speak, and I've been going through that, and there has been not much of the rejections after having a discussion like that. The most issue is a lack of communication. You don't speak to the direct developers, and you just create a new code or design guidelines and show it to them. This is it, and then going through the public hearings, and developers come into the podium and make the bad speech about the code itself, and then city council or aldermen just decide, oh, I don't think so. We prefer this is better. But adopt it. Then those conflicts keep going on. That is not a good business that we need to go through. The good way to perform is let them participate in the process. Let them know why we are revising this code, for example, and what they're gonna get in the future. So let them learn the concept of the trade-offs, and get to the consensus at first. That will be the good strategies working with them, and I've done them many times.
Dr. Kim, in the area of retail recruitment, you would be the first point of contact on many occasions for potential developers and businesses wanting to locate in the city of Starkville. In your past experience, you've been in about 30 years, have you had much dealings on that side of it? And if so, success in helping recruit or wherever you were working, whichever city you happen to be at?
I've been in the development so long time, and for example, in Clay County, I helped the developers creating the Governors Park DRI, which proposed 6,300 jobs and 4,000 single-family homes, and 2,000 multi-family affordable housing units. And that actually was needed more than just the communication. It actually required newspapers collaborations, and we had to go through with the state planning agencies. And at the first, the planning agencies denied that the development, but I made them actually get on the same page and understand what is coming. I told them that this will be the compact development and smart growth. So I've been collaborating with many businesses and other agencies and make it done. So I'm quite familiar with the development issues.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Dr. Kim.
Yes.
I'm Patrick Miller, Alderman from Ward 5. Good to meet you. Appreciate you taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you.
The mayor talked a little bit about, your coordinating and managing 29 employees. Our department certainly isn't that large here in Starkville, but you will be managing a department. Could you talk a little bit about how your management style and how you kind of your philosophy on managing people?
My management style and the leadership changes time to time, depend on the situation. I'm always goal-oriented. I understand that I need to prepare the studies and products in time so that it'll be probably go through the public hearings. If it is not ready, then whatever is the research, that will not be actually look good in front of the public. But mostly I'm a moderator. I like to discuss with my staff members and gain their trust and work together. If it is only me, then I will do my best to provide innovative or creative and nice product. But I understand that two brain is better than one brain. I don't believe that I know everything. I want to hear from everyone who is interested in that development and get their ideas, put their ideas into the products. So always I'm talking with my staff members. If any issues comes up, I will relay that information to my staff members as soon as possible. And whenever it is this communication is summarized and be ready, I relay that information to the decision makers as soon as possible. So that is my leadership style and management style.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Dr. Kim,
Yeah.
thank you for joining us this morning. Looking at your credentials and your experiences, it looks like you would have a lot to bring to the table from both a business background, a design and planning background, and some human resource management. So I think all of those are positive. I think you recognized in doing a little bit of your background on the city of Starkville that we do have the potential for growth. And as Alderman Little said, we are experiencing, by our standards, pretty unprecedented growth in a very short period of time. And because of that, we recently adopted a comprehensive plan and are in the process of adopting codes that will go along with that plan. While that process is undergoing with our current staff, how would you see coming in sort of midstream on that code rewrite, and how would you be able to look at that, see where we're going in terms of place types, smart growth, and how would you be able to come in and review where we are on the code and provide direction and some guidance and some assistance with finalizing the code that then could be brought before the board for discussion and hopefully ultimately approval?
Yes, honestly, I've done that the work several times in every jurisdictions I was in. The issue, I looked at the 2016 Starkville Comprehensive Plan, and which is very nice, and most of it was done on the basis of the concept, which is smart growth and also phone-based code, the ideas. But I don't believe you have a phone-based code. I devised the entirety of the phone-based code in South Padre Island. South Padre Island spent about $600 $29,000 in developing their phone-based code before my tenure. And when I was there, for example, the phone-based code was not ready for the practical application because it was done by the consultants who doesn't have any experiences in the practical environment. So I raised the issues. We need to revise this phone-based code, and city council members were not into it because they already spent about $600,000, and they didn't want that to be done issues. So I organized a community meeting, public hearings about the phone-based code, invited that consultant and let them explain it, and we finally got to the consensus that we need to up-to-date the phone-based code, and we didn't spend the time on it. I revised everything by myself and get it readopted. What you are in right now is about the policy deployment. You thought a lot about this policy development, comprehensive plan, and now you gotta have to get to the strategic plan. And so by deploying this policy, you need to actually work with the department directors and the mid-managers about the tactical alignment and operational alignment. They need to create those sub-categories, sub-goals. And when everybody is actually aiming for it, it will be achieved. If it is a policy that you want to achieve, but not many people, even the employees doesn't understand what is it. Most of the municipalities I was in, and I noticed that the comprehensive plan is usually adopted and then nobody knows what it is and where it is. So it is not a way to doing the business. You need to let everybody knows about it and let them create their own goals to achieve that, the policies. So that is the most critical process, and I've done it before, and I can help you out with that.
Okay, thank you. So you have experience with form-based codes. We do have, prior to the comprehensive plan, we do have a few corridors in town that are form-based codes that were developed by a consultant. And I would say in large part that has been where we've seen a lot of the recent development. And as part of this code rewrite, it is certainly taking a look at how do we update and revise some of those things that may need to be revised from both an aesthetic perspective and maybe a density or height of building perspective, and that is part of what's being proposed to be revised in this plan. And so we would certainly, I say we, the board and the staff would certainly be looking for someone who has experience in that realm, along with managing staff and doing that could help be the person that would be the lead person in communicating with the public on what those policies are, why they're important, and being the person that then is going to back staff and present that to the board on why we need to make a decision one way or the other that's going to be in the best interest of the city of Starkville.
That's right, that's right. I understand that a lot of people, decision makers in the board are thinking differently, but getting to the same goals. For example, I noticed that some of the decision makers are sensate, and some of the decision makers are intuitive. So both demands different ideas when a staff make a presentation. For example, when I rely on strategies and policies, and if I show you that this is the product I'm promoting today, and if you look at the policies that supports this one, but some of the decision makers probably do not think, okay, that is in the policies, but what is the good for us? What is the benefits? What kind of data do you have? So after understanding those, I have been actually providing both qualitative and quantitative data and the explanations so that everybody can understand what it is and digest differently, but get to the same point. So I understand what you're at, and I can support you with that.
Thank you, Dr. Kim.
Thank you.
Alderman Vaughn? No? Alderman Sistrum?
Alderman Miller took my question.
Okay. Well, I wanted to circle back to something that I neglected to ask. I see you've got major grants that you have acquired.
Oh, yeah.
That are part of this, and that kind of intrigues me because grants are wonderful things, and we've benefited from them in a number of occasions. And so I was interested in your success in doing that. I see you got a $13 million grant for ecotourism in 2017.
Yeah, that is actually not available for every jurisdiction. It is for the Gulf area. BP spilled the oil, and they paid a lot of fines. And for the Gulf area communities, they could actually apply and acquire that monies. But beyond that, the TAP grant, transportation alternatives, the program grant, $3.5 million, and that was to develop sidewalks along the state road. And Tiger grant was for developing multimodal bus station. And $400,000 of the Texas Parks and Wildlife grant for the outdoor recreational facility development, which was funded for the community development. The issue here is that when grant is published for the application, the staff need to look into the criteria carefully and before you apply to it. For example, Texas Parks and Wildlife wants the jurisdictions to have Parks and Wildlife the master plan before they apply, and the master plan should stipulate all the details what the city wants, and it's gotta be in it. So if you want to apply for that grant and you don't have a Parks and Recreation master plan on the hand, then you'll not get the grant. So after reviewing all this, you need to make everything fit into the criteria. If, for example, another one was that grant was will be paid for the low-income population first. Then if you look at the South Padre Island, most of the residents, the business owners, they are well off. They are not the substandard population. So in that case, I use the populations, not the city itself, because it is so small, 2.5 square mile, outside the area. And outside the area, inland area, there are some the low-income and populations living there. So with using that statistics in it, we could be able to qualify for the grant itself. So it is about meeting the requirements rather than just applying to it. So it requires more research and applications rather than just sitting, okay, we need to apply this and there's money available and we check one and how many population is under the substandard situations and you say, oh, we don't have it, none, then you will not get that. But you need to think creatively and apply and get the grants done. So that, I believe that was the reason I got a lot of grants.
It would appear that way, and we have been the beneficiary of a number of TAP grants, for example, and grants that have been beneficial to some of our areas that needed some infrastructure and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it is always impressive when you get the larger grants. We haven't managed to get a Tiger grant, though we have applied for a Tiger grant, and then what is subsequently, I guess, the Build grant. We've applied but not gotten them. So I was. You know, you're right. It absolutely requires that you meet the requirements and meet the specifications and research and that sort of thing. But anyway, I was impressed that you had gotten some substantial grants. It looked like you were very successful at that. So
also the support is always good. I got a letter from the governor's office, and I haven't actually met met in person with the governor, but I sent an email and I got the letter from them, so that was quite good.
Okay, all right. Do we have any other questions? Anything else anyone wants to ask? Okay. Dr. Kim, if you would like to, we're kind of wrapping this up. Is there anything you'd like to share with us, or is there anything else you'd like to highlight about your experience that we haven't brought out or that we haven't asked as a part of the questioning?
Yes. I've been working with a lot of departments and coordinated, sometimes supervised, and including the utilities and the public works and the tourism and event management and everything. So what I can tell you is I understand how that works are done, and as a team member, I will fully collaborate with other department heads and to provide great public services. Rather than I will never claim that this is my boundary lines. You don't get into. It is not the public service. To get the public service done, you shouldn't have any the boundary lines. You should work everybody together and get the work done. And since it is a job, and I understand that I will do so completely in a thorough way with others. I have one question. Do you have any urgent or old issues that need to be solved with the city?
Urgent issues? Well, the code that we were talking about is in all of our opinions, long overdue. And so we have been working on that diligently. We have a city planner and we have an assistant city planner, and they have both been, I've pushed them off into a back room somewhere where they could focus on it almost intensely for several days at a time so that we can move that forward. So if anything is urgent, I would call getting that plan finalized and out in front of the public and then adopted is our most urgent and pressing need at this point in time.
Okay, got it. Great. Yeah, I've got a lot of experiences in policy writing and amendments, so I can help you with that, and I have no problem with it.
Okay, and I don't think anybody disagree with me on that being our most pressing need. Okay, I think I've got head nodding all around, so yes, I think that is what we all agree is our most pressing need. Any other questions of us that we could answer?
No, thank you for having me today.
Oh,
Great.
well, thank you so much for being there and putting up with this kind of interview. I was excited to do it, and so we appreciate your being willing to participate in this with us. So you have a lovely day. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Dr. Kim.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Cool. Thanks.
Do we get a break for a
We do
second?
get a break. What time is our next one?
We just text, we postponed it for a little bit because we're
Oh.
running a little bit late.
Oh, 10, it says 10:20.
I took,
Postponed to when?
no, just to read out, but we giving them a
Oh.
little break. 'cause
Oh,
of
okay.
some technical stuff.
Okay, all right, so we have about 10 minutes before
Yes,
the
ma'am.
next one. Okay. Cool. Grana, I believe. I'll make sure how we pronounce that when we get with him. So, if you want to bring him up or dial him up, Matt. Mr. Grana?
Hello, how are you?
Hi, good, thank you. We don't have a picture of you right now. We have, oh, there you are. Okay, great. Got you. Okay, well, thank you for being here. I want to make sure before I go any further, I pronounce your name correctly. Is it Grana or Grana?
Grana.
Grana, okay. All right, well, I'm Lynn Spruill. I'm the mayor. And I have to my right here Alderman Sistrunk of Ward 2. And to her right is Alderman Little, David Little of Ward 3. Alderman Jason Walker, Ward 4. Then next is Alderman Henry Vaughn from Ward 7. And at the end of the table is Alderman Patrick Miller from Ward 5. And so we are all kind of gathered here, and I don't know if, you probably do know this, but this is the first time that we have employed this method for interviewing folks. So we had an interview just before you, and it went swimmingly, so I'm hoping that this one will go so as well. We won't have any technical difficulties. But we appreciate you being with us this morning, and what we want to do is give you an opportunity if you would like to. We all have your resume here in front of us. If you would like to give us something that we don't see on paper or make an opening statement to the board, that would be lovely. We'll give you that opportunity to do that, and then we'll go into some questioning possibilities.
Okay. Well, I don't really know that there's anything on that's not on my resume that I can talk to you about, but I have a variety of experience both in city and county planning, in both the current planning or zoning side of it and the long-range comprehensive side of it. And I'm looking to secure a community development director job.
Okay, and you have been, in that case, I'll just start asking some questions if that suits you.
Sure.
You're in the private sector right now. Did you, you're in Santa Rosa Beach, Florida, is that correct? So you're on East Coast time? Okay.
Yeah, that's where I live right now, Santa Rosa Beach.
Okay, and you are in the private sector, right?
I work for myself.
Okay, so this is your own business?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I'm a consultant right now for
Okay,
developers.
all right, I just want to make sure I was clear on that. What brought Starkville to your attention, if I may ask?
Location. I'm originally from Kentucky, and I would like to get back closer to my family. They're in Western Kentucky in a town called Paducah. So it's about a 10-hour drive for me right now to go home to visit them, and Starkville's about a 5-hour drive. So location and the opportunity to become a community development director.
Okay, all right, so family, I understand that, okay. And I see you worked for the city of Destin for what appears to be 8 years, is that correct?
About 18 years, yeah.
Oh, 18 years, I've got this,
Different capacities.
oh, okay, I'm sorry, yes, I was looking at under your planning division manager.
Right, right.
For about 8 years in that capacity. And it says you supervise planning staff. How many were on your staff?
At the end, it was just me and a support person plus another planner. But at our peak, we had 6 people in the planning division. But because of the downturn in the economy, we didn't fill positions as they became vacant. So right before I left, it was just me, another planner, and the support staff.
Okay. And one of the things that we have been looking at, we're doing a lot of construction, both internally in our utilities department, and we have a large amount of construction going on. We're sort of on the cusp of a lot of growth. I think Alderman Little had said unprecedented growth, which is pretty much true for us. And I was noticing that you have performed inspections of construction work associated with development project sites. Would you talk about that just a little bit so I understand what kind of inspections you did?
As part of our process here to get what we call a development order through the planning department for any type of new development, we have to go out at the end when they've completed construction and review what they have constructed versus the construction plans that we approved as part of the development order. So we have to make sure that all the parking places are in as they're laid out, make sure they got all the landscaping in, any type of walls or other buffers between commercial and residential. We have to check the outdoor lighting. And sometimes even the outdoor part of the building, if it's constructed the way it was approved in the building plans.
Okay, so it was post-construction as opposed to pre-construction and during the process?
Right, yeah, that's correct.
Okay, I was trying to understand that. Did you have any occasion to work through an architectural review committee type of thing? Is that something that the Destin had or has?
We have a multimodal transportation district, which has forms, basically form-based code type components that we had to check for during the review process, like the percentage of windows that they could have. There was a minimum and maximum of that. The pitch of the roof was an important aspect of our design requirements. But as far as an actual architectural review board, no, we did not. But we had those elements in our code that I had to review against.
Okay, all right. And how many staff have you managed at a peak? Have you, you're managing?
Three.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, our current department, this department has under it codes, building, planning, and so there was a number of staff, and I just wondered how many you had an opportunity.
Well, I was the acting community development director for 4 months when my boss was promoted to the acting city manager. So I was in charge of the whole department, which included the building department, the planning department, and a code enforcement division. So that was about 13 people total.
Okay, all right, well, that kind of answers the question. Okay, thank you, sir. And I'll defer now to other board members who would like to ask some questions. David, do you want to start?
I will. Dr. Granite, thank you for being here this morning with us. One question I'd like to ask you would be, as far as handling conflict, enforcing ordinances with developers, as far as, how do you handle the conflict situations as they arise? You know, because sometimes we make changes to our codes, say a sign ordinance or sidewalks or something that may cost them more money and they're not agreeable with. And
So are you talking about a code enforcement issue where we're trying to enforce our codes
Yeah,
after they've already put something in, or?
well,
they violated
somewhere where
that?
someone's
Or-
wanting to develop something and it doesn't mesh totally with ours, do you seek out ways to try to find ways to get them there under the code, or just kind of tell me how you work
Well,
in those situations?
I mean, hopefully you catch that during the permit review phase of the development. If they have put it in a different location that doesn't meet the setback, or, you know, changed it in some other aspect, I mean, you try to work with them as much as you can, but at the end of the day, you have to enforce your code. I mean, and it might cost them some money to fix it that way, but as long as we've done our job and trying to make sure that they met the code when it was permitted, and the onus is on them that they've changed it after the fact. I mean, you can certainly look and see what the code says if they have any wiggle room, but, you know, at the end of the day, you have to enforce the code the way it's written, so.
Okay. Starkville and Destin are probably totally opposites as far as retail recruitment to some degree, with being a destination point as far as the beach and leisure area. But we are experiencing a lot of economic growth right now, and this position, the community development director, many times is going to be the first point person or the point of contact for the potential businesses looking to locate here. What kind of successes have you had being a cheerleader for Destin in that capacity in recruiting retail development?
Well, like you said, we really haven't had to recruit anybody to come to Destin. Most people, you know, have done a market study and we fit their bill, so to speak. We do have what we call pre-application meetings that are mandatory with people who are looking to come into town, and I've been in just about all of those when I was there working for the city. They'll usually have somebody that they have a contract with who's like a national site locator that we talk to first. And they'll ask us pretty detailed questions about what does our code allow and not allow. And sometimes they've done their homework and looked at our code. But as far as trying to encourage them to to locate in our city, that's never really been an issue or a problem that I've had to deal with. We have always worked with people. If sometimes you might need to ask the city council to change the code somewhat to allow a national retailer to come in if they have a certain style of building that they want. But again, that's up to the city council. So
The mayor mentioned a moment ago, architectural review committee or something along those lines. That's something we've kind of been considering here. We haven't got there yet. Maybe have an architect review plans as they come through and be sure they fit in for whatever area of the city they may be looking to build. What are your thoughts on having something like that?
well, we had that in Destin as part of our multimodal transportation district regulations. We didn't have a architect either on staff or through a contract that would do that. I would highly recommend it. The few elements that we adopted I worked on those, so I knew intimately how to implement them, and it wasn't that hard. But I've never had a full-blown architectural review committee. If you're going to have that, I would suggest you have at least an architect, either by contract or on staff, to review that type of thing. You don't need planners or engineers reviewing architectural plans for that type of thing, I don't think.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Jason, you want to, Patrick?
Mr. Grant, thank you for being here today. Patrick Miller, Alderman from Ward 5. Certainly appreciate having you. The mayor referenced or asked you some questions just about the number of staff you've had before, and I know you had said at one point in your career you've managed up to 13 people, at other times a little bit less. But I was curious, just as a manager, what is your management style? What is your philosophy on managing people?
I don't like to micromanage people.
Okay.
I think that the people under you learn more if they're put in a position where they have to handle the situation. You can't shield them all the time. I mean, that's part of the growth process. And that's pretty much all of my supervisors have been that way. They just let me, work and do my thing. If I have a question or need a decision to be made, certainly you go to your supervisor, but I don't really believe in micromanaging people.
Okay. What if there's a conflict or something of that nature? How do you handle conflict in managing?
You need to, of course, you'll have an employee manual that you have to follow. There's certain procedures in there, but you really need to be strict on that, because if you have somebody who's a bad apple, it can really bring down your organization, and you need to try to rectify that as soon as possible. So.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Grana, Jason Walker here, Alderman of Ward 4. Thank you for being here this morning. It looks like the majority of your experiences in Florida, and Alderman Little alluded to, and you mentioned that Destin's certainly a tourist destination because you have the great white sands of the Gulf Coast. Starkville, we're an SEC town, as I'm sure you're aware of that. And so we certainly have our own destination. We are, without a doubt, a college community that is growing. We adopted form-based codes several years ago, and we've seen a fair amount of growth along those lines where we've adopted that code that is changing the character of what our city is looking like. And we're in the process now of recently adopted a comprehensive plan and are in the process of rewriting our codes to complement the comprehensive plan. As we're in the process of that, we're sort of midstream through that. If you were to be in this position, how would you handle coming in midstream on a code rewrite to being able to oversee that code rewrite and putting your 2 cents in and making sure that it's going to match the comprehensive plan? And then to follow that up with, what would be your overarching sort of philosophy for where you see cities growing, and how do you see planning being a role in that moving forward for a place like Starkville?
Okay, it's funny you asked that. I've already when I came to Destin, one of the first jobs I had was they had adopted a new land development code, but they had kept the old land development code as an appendix in the back of the existing one. And I had to go through and marry the two codes to make sure that we weren't getting rid of any regulations that weren't in the new code from the old code. I also had to take over a comprehensive plan rewrite because the city fired its consultant midway through the process. I had to finish up the entire comp plan by myself for the most part. We had city council meetings or workshops basically twice a month for a whole year to finish that process up. And I also, after that, started writing. I was the only person doing comprehensive planning for the city at that time. So I had to adopt a new zoning code for our new mixed use land use districts. And I also had to adopt the multimodal transportation district, which has a lot of form-based code aspects to it. So coming there, I mean, I've had that experience of doing that. You basically just have to study up what your existing code is, the work that the planners there have done so far, and just jump right into it. I don't think it would be a problem at all since I've done that before. I've got about 5 filing cabinets full of ordinances that I wrote for the city of Destin back in the planning division there. So I have extensive experience writing codes. What was the second part of the question?
Sort of just your general philosophy on planning, and where do you see that going for a city the size of Starkville, or 25,000 with 50,000 plus or minus counting students?
Well, you have to, in my experience with Destin, you had to tailor the code to different areas of the city. So when we adopted our multimodal transportation district, we had what we called an old Destin sub area, which was mostly for the western part of town. And the part that was in our we have 2 redevelopment areas there, and we were trying to push development into a certain manner of form with that multimodal transportation district. So you had to tailor it to, you had to be really tight on your regulations there, but on the eastern side of the city, the newer side of the city, you had a somewhat different relaxed code, because that was your new growing areas where you're not going to have redevelopment. You're just taking raw land and putting something on it for the first time. So you have to tailor the code to different areas of the city where you're trying to achieve the results that the city council wants.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Have you ever been a part of an annexation process, Mr. Brenner?
Yes, we annexed a couple of properties here in Destin. Everything in what people think is Destin is not really in the city. So there was 3 or 4 properties that we annexed in the 18 years that I was there. So.
Okay. And I have to ask, you've got so much planning experience. Is there a reason that you didn't go for the AICP certification?
I didn't really. I took it twice in the early 2000s, and I just didn't really. I didn't. It wasn't required for my work at the city of Destin. I was an expert witness in several of our quasi-judicial hearings, and I just never followed up with it. So.
Okay, all right. I was just curious. You had so much planning experience. So, okay. Do you have anything that you would like to say to us? I don't see any other questions coming from us. Do you have any questions of us? Anything we can answer for you?
When do you expect to make a final decision on the position?
This is an interview only board meeting. We will have, our board meetings are the first and third Tuesdays of every month. And so I anticipate we will take this up again at some point, probably come in for a face-to-face interview would be our next step, depending on what we do.
Okay.
Probably within the next few weeks, we will come to some sort of conclusion about how we're going to proceed.
All right, sounds good.
All right. Is there any closing statements you would like to make?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. All right. Well, we appreciate your time this morning. Thank you so much for doing this type of interview with us. We've enjoyed speaking with you, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you very much. Same to you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. And unless unless there is some discussion amongst us, this was just set for.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you. I have a motion to adjourn from Alderman Walker. Do I have a second?
So,
I'm sorry?
Do we not have a third?
A third, second and a third?
No, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
no,
He
oh, I'm
canceled.
sorry.
He canceled.
I apologize.
Oh, he canceled.
He canceled on us. I apologize. You were not here when we were talking about that.
I can third that if you.
I'm sorry.
It's what it felt like.
Second from Alderman Little. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
All right, thanks,
Bye,
Chris.
Chris.
Bye.
He's removed himself from